The garage door was open. That's when I knew Dennis's car was gone. 20 years of his life vanished overnight. My son sold it for $15,000 to take his wife to Paris. But the phone call I got the next morning changed everything. "Mrs. Bennett, I have your husband's car," the man said. His voice was rough, like he'd been crying. "There's something Dennis wanted you to know. Something he hid before he died. My name is Carol, and I'm 65 years old. I've been a widow for 8 months. My husband Dennis spent 2 decades restoring a 1967 Shelby GT500. Our son Brian threw it away for a vacation with a woman we barely knew. But Dennis wasn't just restoring a car. He was building a case, gathering evidence, protecting me from beyond the grave. That empty garage became the beginning of everything. A betrayal, a conspiracy, a rescue mission 20 years in the making. This is how my dead husband saved my life. Standing in my kitchen with coffee going cold in my hands, I stared through the window at the garage. The door was rolled up. The space inside was dark, even with morning light coming in. Dennis never left it open. 43 years of marriage. And he never once left that door open overnight. But Dennis was gone. 8 months now. I walked outside in my slippers. Spring air hit me, warm for April. The concrete was cold under my feet. The oil stain in the center of the garage floor was dark and familiar. 20 years of the same car sitting in the same spot leaves a mark. But the spot was empty now. Just empty. My chest went tight. I put my hand on the doorframe and breathed. In through the nose, out through the mouth. 43 years as a nurse in the ICU, and I still use the same techniques I taught patients. Breathe. Think. Act. Dennis's workbench sat exactly how he'd left it. His tools hung on the pegboard, each one outlined in black marker. His red toolbox sat closed. His work journal lay open, pages, filled with his small, careful handwriting. The last entry was dated 3 weeks before he died. Almost done. 20 years on this beauty. Can't wait to teach Carol to drive her properly. Our retirement road trip starts next summer. The garage still smelled like him. Motor oil and old leather and that orange hand soap he used. A car engine sounded outside. Brian's black BMW pulled into my driveway. My son got out of the driver's side. 38 years old. And he still wouldn't look me in the eye when he knew he'd done something wrong. The passenger door opened. Vanessa stepped out, perfect like always. Dark hair, smooth, designer sunglasses, clothes that probably cost more than my grocery bill. Brian walked toward me, stopped at the edge of the driveway. "Mom," he said. I waited. "I need to talk to you about something." "Where's the car, Brian?" His jaw tightened. "That's what I need to talk about. Where is it?" "I sold it." The words didn't make sense at first. "You? What?" "I sold it yesterday. I needed the money. Vanessa has been planning this Paris trip for months. It's important for her business connections. I couldn't let her down." The tightness in my chest spread. "That was your father's car. It was just sitting there." His voice went defensive. "Dad's gone, Mom. You don't even drive it." It was his. Brian finally looked at me. His eyes were red around the edges. "Tired. I got a good price for it too. $15,000. That's fair for a car that old. $15,000 for a car Dennis had spent every weekend working on. For a car he'd restored piece by piece. For a car he'd promised would stay in the family. "When did you take it?" "Yesterday afternoon. You were at the store." He still had his key, the one from when he lived here. "You should have asked me." "Would you have said yes?" "No. I wouldn't have." Vanessa walked up then. She moved like she owned the driveway. Stood next to Brian and put her hand on his arm. Her nails were red and perfect. "Carol, we're not discussing this," she said. "It's done. The car is sold. We leave for Paris tomorrow. This is between me and my son. I'm his wife. What's between you and him is between all of us." Her voice was pleasant, reasonable. Brian needed that money. The car was sitting unused. It made sense to sell it. It was his father's. His father is dead. She said it flat. Matter of fact, Brian is trying to build a life. We both are. Surely you understand that. I didn't trust myself to speak. We'll send you photos from Paris, Vanessa said. She smiled. You'd love it there. Very romantic. They walked back to the BMW. Brian glanced back once. Saw me standing there in Dennis's garage. Then he got in the car. Vanessa's window rolled down. Take care of yourself, Carol. We'll see you when we get back. The BMW backed out and drove away. I went back into the garage, stood in the center where the oil stain was. I picked up Dennis's journal again. Opened to that last entry. Read his words about teaching me to drive, about our retirement road trip, about 20 years of work finally finished. 8 months of being a widow, and I thought I'd cried all the tears there were. But standing in that garage, looking at the empty space our son had left, I felt them coming again. The phone rang at 7 in the morning. I'd been awake since 4, sitting at the kitchen table with Dennis's journal open in front of me. Hello? Mrs. Bennett? A man's voice. Rough around the edges. This is Tom Graves from Graves Classic Auto. I have your husband's car. I sat up straighter. What? The Shelby. Your son brought it in Wednesday. I need you to come to the dealership. Please. Right now, if you can. There's something Dennis wanted you to know. I don't understand. Dennis was my friend. A good friend. His voice cracked. I was at his funeral. Please, Mrs. Bennett. Can you come? I remembered him now. Vaguely. A man, standing in the back at the funeral home. Gray hair, dark suit. 30 minutes later, I pulled into Graves Classic Auto, industrial area on the east side of town. Rows of vintage cars sat in the front lot, all gleaming in the early sun. A man stood outside the main entrance. Maybe 65, jeans and a button-down shirt. His eyes were red. Mrs. Bennett, thank you for coming. He put out his hand. I'm Tom Graves. Your husband saved my life 25 years ago. I waited. I needed a business loan. Had a dream of opening this place. No bank would touch me. Bad credit. No collateral. Dennis co-signed for me. Risked his own credit and savings for a stranger. This dealership exists because of him. He never told me. He wouldn't have. That's who Dennis was. Tom wiped his eyes. When your son brought that Shelby in Wednesday, I knew it the second I saw it. Dennis talked about that car every time we ran into each other. He was so proud of it. Brian said, he sold it. He did. To me. Tom looked sick. Your son had no idea what he was selling. I asked him if he knew the value. He said, 15,000. Sounded fair. My stomach dropped. What's it really worth? Tom met my eyes. Around $180,000. The number didn't make sense. Couldn't make sense. It's a documented 1967 Shelby GT500. One of 2,048 ever made. Dennis restored it to museum quality. I sat down on the curb. Just sat. Tom sat next to me. I bought it from him. Tom said finally. Paid him the 15,000 because he was desperate. But Mrs. Bennett, that car was never mine to keep. Why are you telling me this? Because Dennis made me promise 2 years ago. Tom stood, held out his hand to help me up. Come inside. There's something you need to see. He led me through the building to the garage. The Shelby sat there, gleaming. Burgundy paint perfect, chrome shining. I walked toward it slowly, put my hand on the hood. The metal was cool and smooth. I opened the driver's door, sat in the leather seat. It smelled like the garage at home. Tom leaned against the door frame. 2 years ago, Dennis asked me to help him install something, a hidden compartment. He said if anything ever happened to him, I needed to make sure you knew about it. Why? Tom gestured to the dashboard. I didn't look inside. He said this was for you, and only you. Tom showed me how to release the panel. The radio face came away, and behind it was a dark space. Tom stepped back, walked out, left me alone. I reached into the compartment. My hand touched paper. I pulled out a manila folder, thick and heavy. Under it was a sealed envelope with my name on the front in Dennis's handwriting. At the bottom, a small wooden box with a key inside. I opened the envelope first. Dennis's handwriting filled the page, dated 2 months before he died. Carol, if you're reading this, I'm gone. I'm sorry I didn't tell you while I was alive. I've been investigating Vanessa for 18 months. She's not who she says she is. Her real name is Vanessa Cortland. She's done this before. Twice that I've found so far. In this folder is everything I've gathered. Photos, documents, contact information for her previous victims. She's going to target our house, Carol. That's her pattern. She'll convince Brian that you're declining, that you need care, that the house should be sold. Then she'll disappear with the money. Brian doesn't see it. He won't believe me without ironclad proof. The key in this box is for our safe deposit box at First National. Box 447. Inside are stock certificates I bought in 1994. Check the current value. You're taken care of financially. Protect yourself. Protect our son. He's a victim in this too. I love you. I'm still protecting you. Dennis. I read it twice, my hands shaking. Dennis knew. He knew about Vanessa. Spent 18 months investigating her. Died before he could finish. I opened the manila folder. Inside were photos. Vanessa at a wedding with a different man. Older, gray hair. Another photo. Different wedding. Different man. Marriage certificates. Vanessa Cortland married Stanley Wright, Phoenix, Arizona, June 2019. Vanessa Cortland married George Murphy, Tampa, Florida, March 2021. Dennis had left me everything I needed. I called Stanley Wright first. He answered on the third ring, voice tired. Hello, Mr. Wright. My name is Carol Bennett. I'm calling because my son is married to a woman named Vanessa Cortland. Long silence. Then a heavy sigh. I wondered when this call would come. Stanley told his story slowly. Met Vanessa in spring of 2019. Charming, attentive. They married 6 months later. His mother had concerns. Said something felt off. Stanley dismissed it. After the wedding, Vanessa started with small comments. Your mother seems to be slowing down. Have you noticed? Over months, she built a case that his mother wasn't safe. Then, she found a memory care facility. $20,000 a month. Only way to afford it was to sell his mother's house. $280,000. Money went into a joint account with Vanessa. 2 weeks later, Vanessa disappeared. Cleaned out the account. Every penny. My mother died 6 months later. Stanley's voice cracked. She kept asking when she could go home. George Murphy's story was the same pattern. Met Vanessa at his father's funeral. She helped him through grief. They married 8 months later. His father had owned a small auto repair shop. Vanessa suggested selling it. $195,000. 3 days after the check cleared, Vanessa was gone. She targets men with aging parents and family assets, George said. That's her specialty. I met Peter Coleman next. Private investigator, 55 years old. Former detective. Dennis's friend. Dennis, made from men. Me promise not to contact you directly, unless Vanessa acted against you, Peter said. He showed me printouts. Vanessa active on caregiver forums under a fake name. Posts asking how to convince elderly people they need help. Credit cards in Brian's name. 3 cards, $32,000 total debt. She's in setup phase now. When they get back from Paris, she'll start the campaign in earnest. I went to First National Bank. Box 447. Inside was a single envelope, stock certificates. A letter from Dennis. I bought this stock as a favor to a patient in '94. $5,000. Found them last month while organizing files. This is worth more than we ever saved. The bank manager researched on her computer. Her eyes widened. Mrs. Bennett, these shares are currently valued at approximately $342,000. 3 days later, I invited Brian to the house. Just him. I showed him Dennis's letter first. He read it, color draining from his face. Dad was investigating Vanessa for 18 months before he died. His reaction was instant. Anger, denial. Dad never liked her. This is ridiculous. I spread the photos on the table. Vanessa, at 2 different weddings, with 2 different men. The marriage certificates. Call them, I said. Ask them about their wives. I handed him the paper with phone numbers. Stanley Wright. George Murphy. You want me to call random strangers? They're not random. They were married to your wife before you. Brian grabbed the paper, crumpled it. I'm not doing this. He headed for the door. Brian, please. He turned. Why are you doing this? Can't you just let me be happy? My voice broke. Because your father died trying to protect you, and I'm not going to let his last months be for nothing. Brian slammed the door. At midnight, the phone rang. Brian's name on the screen. Brian? His voice was wrecked. Raw. I called them. Mom? I called them both. He was crying. What did they say? Everything. It's the same. Exactly the same story. His voice shook. I went home. I was so angry. But I kept thinking about Dad. So I decided to test her. Just ask simple questions. Her answers were different. Completely different from things she told me before. So I pushed. Asked about the credit cards I didn't know about. What did you do? Her whole face changed, Mom. Like a mask came off. She packed a bag right then. Said I was weak. Said I was just like all of them. She walked out. Peter Coleman was already tracking her. She checked into the airport. Marriott. Just booked a flight. Mexico City. 6 a.m. Departure. One way. She's running. Yes. But I found something else. Vanessa Cortland is a stolen identity. This woman's real name is Linda Marsh. She's wanted for fraud in 2 other states. At 3 in the morning, we met at my house. Peter, Brian, and me. Peter laid out the situation. Police are ready to arrest her on outstanding warrants. But we need your statement about the forged credit cards. Brian looked at me. What would Dad do? Your father spent his last months building a case against her. He'd want you to stop her so she doesn't do this to someone else. Brian nodded. Call the police. Let's go. We arrived at the airport at 4:30. Police were already positioned near security. At 5:30, Vanessa appeared. 2 large suitcases, designer coat, sunglasses. She looked calm, confident. She got in the security line. The detectives moved. Ma'am, we need to speak with you. Vanessa turned. For just a second, her face changed. Then she smiled. Is there a problem, officers? The detective showed his badge. We have a warrant for your arrest. Linda Marsh. Vanessa's smile froze. I don't know who that is. She ran, dropped her luggage, kicked off her heels, ran in stockings across the floor. Airport security caught her before she made it 20 feet. Tackled her at the departure board. She fought, kicking, screaming. Police opened her abandoned luggage right there. Inside were stacks of cash. $48,000. A passport with her photo but different name. Linda Brennan. She saw us then. Saw Brian standing 30 feet away. She went completely still. Then her face transformed. Pure rage. You! She lunged toward him. Police held her back. You did this. You're pathetic. Weak. Stupid. You really thought someone like me would want you? I stepped in front of Brian. Vanessa turned on me. And you! Interfering old woman. This was mine. 3 years I spent on this. You should have died already. Police dragged Vanessa away. She was still screaming as they took her through security doors. Then she was gone. 2 weeks later, we sat in the police station, giving formal statements. Detective Ramirez explained what they'd found. Vanessa's real name was Linda Marsh. Started running cons at 20, graduated to identity theft and elder fraud. Vanessa Cortland was a stolen identity. Real Vanessa died in a car accident. Linda stole her identity and used it for 6 years. 5 previous victims they'd found so far. Charges filed in 3 states. Identity theft, fraud, forgery. The prosecutor expected a plea deal. 12 to 15 years federal prison. 1 month later, Brian showed up at my door with 2 suitcases. "Can I stay here? Just for a while?" "Of course." He took his old room. Same room from high school. Posters still on the walls. The divorce was granted. Annulment, actually. Marriage never legally valid. Vanessa married under a stolen identity. Brian started therapy. Twice a week. Some days he was okay. Made breakfast, helped around the house. Some days he barely spoke. I didn't push. Just kept the space safe. Years as a nurse taught me about healing. It's not linear. It takes time. 2 months after the airport, I found Brian in the garage. He was sitting on Dennis's old work stool, holding the journal, tears running down his face. "I found this on the workbench." Started reading. He opened to a page from years ago. Taught Brian to change the oil today. He's 12. His hands are still small, but careful. So proud of him. Brian's hands shook. Another entry says we worked all afternoon on the engine rebuild. "These are the days I'll remember." "I barely remember this," Brian said. "Working on the car with him. He loved those days." "I sold his car." Brian's voice broke. "The car he spent 20 years on. For $15,000. For a trip to impress a woman who was planning to destroy our family. You didn't know." "I should have known. Dad tried to warn me. Those last few months, he kept asking about Vanessa, about our plans. I thought he was being controlling." He wiped his eyes. "Last conversation I had with him, we argued about her. I told him to back off. He died a week later. I never apologized." I pulled out the letter Dennis had left in the car. The one about needing proof before telling Brian. "Read this." Brian took it, read Dennis's words about not wanting to break his heart without ironclad proof. About loving him. About Brian being a victim too. "He understood," I said. "He didn't blame you." Brian broke down completely. I held him. All those years being a mother, holding my son through every pain. This one cut the deepest. We sat in the garage for a long time, surrounded by Dennis's tools, his workbench, his radio. Eventually Brian's tears stopped. "I wish the car was still here. I'd learn everything about it the way Dad wanted me to." I didn't say anything, just squeezed his shoulder. 1 week later, on a Saturday morning, I heard an engine rumble outside. Deep, powerful, familiar. I looked out the kitchen window. The Shelby sat in my driveway. Burgundy paint gleaming in the sun. Tom Graves behind the wheel. Brian's door opened upstairs. His footsteps on the stairs. He'd heard it too. We both walked outside, stood on the front porch. Tom got out of the car, smiled when he saw our faces. Bringing her home, where she belongs. Brian stared at the car. Couldn't move. Couldn't speak. Tom walked toward us, held out the keys to me. "This was never mine, Mrs. Bennett. Dennis built it for you." "Tom, you paid Brian $15,000. Tom shook his head. "But this car is worth more than money. Dennis would want you to have it. Want Brian to learn it. That's what matters." Brian's voice came out rough. "I sold it. I threw it away." Tom looked at him. "You were a victim too. Your dad knew that." We opened the garage door together. Tom backed the Shelby into its spot. The same spot it left months ago. The oil stain on the concrete still there. The engine shut off. Then the garage smelled like it should again. Motor oil. Old leather. Dennis. 3 months later, on a Sunday morning, we started. Brian brought Dennis's journal to the garage. I brought coffee. We opened the hood. Stood looking at the engine Dennis had rebuilt piece by piece. "I don't know where to start," Brian said. I opened the journal. "Start with the oil. Check it first every time." Brian found the dipstick, pulled it, checked the level. His hands were steadier now. 3 months of therapy showing. We spent the morning going through the car together. Checking fluids, examining filters, testing systems. Following Dennis's notes, step by step. Brian's confidence grew as the hours passed. I saw Dennis in his movements. The careful attention. The gentle touch with tools. By afternoon, Brian was smiling. Really smiling. "I forgot how much I loved this," he said. being in the garage, working with my hands. Your father loved these days with you. I remember more now. Little things. The way he'd explain everything twice to make sure I understood. He closed the hood carefully. I'm going to take care of this car the way he wanted. We'll take care of it, I said. 4 months after Tom brought the car back, I decided it was time. Saturday, morning, spring turning to summer. I stood in the garage with the keys in my hand. Brian came out. You ready? I think so. We got in. Brian passenger seat. Me behind the wheel. I started the engine. The Shelby roared to life. Deep rumble I could feel in my chest. The sound of Dennis's work, his patience, his love. I backed out of the garage carefully. Drove down Oakwood Drive. Windows down. Warm air coming through. The engine purring smooth and powerful. Brian laughed. Dad would lose his mind right now. In the best way. We drove with no destination. Through town, past the hospital where I'd worked, past the high school where Brian played football. Just driving. After an hour, I headed home. Pulled into the driveway, backed the car into the garage. Perfect fit, like it never left. Dad would be so proud of you, Brian said. Of us, I corrected. That evening, I looked out the window at the garage, the Shelby in its place, Dennis's tools on their pegboard, his journal on the workbench. I thought about Dennis's letter. I'm still protecting you. He was. I wasn't alone. Never was. Never would be. So that's my story. I'd love to hear what you think. Would you have been able to forgive your child for selling something that precious? Would you have fought back the way I did? Let me know in the comments, and subscribe for more stories like mine. Because sometimes, the people we love protect us in ways we never imagine. Even after they're gone,